So this week we talked about argument by analogy. So the argument that we are analyzing this week is if all drivers have to take a driver's test to get a driver's license, people who desire to be parents have to take a parent test to get a parenting license. The argument analogy is that if I agree that everybody that wants to drive and has a driver's license, they have to have that driver's license, then I have to agree that parenting licenses are necessary, according to Peter Singer. The difference between driving a car and having a child is that driving a car is operating machinery. That's going to come up later. It can kill innocent bystanders, and it's extremely unsafe. Like, driving a car is unsafe. So if you have somebody that doesn't have a license, it's completely illegal and horrifying. The similarity between driving a car and having a driver's license versus having a parenting license is that both are a choice. No one forced you to get a driver's license, but you chose to. No one forced you to have a kid unless you were raped and got pregnant, which is a terrible situation, and I'm extremely sorry. But it was a choice, usually. From All Things Considered, from Betsy Potsow, she takes all of the philosophical ethic theories and combines them together to figure out which one or how they all work together to create the standing of the opinion or the ethic. From the utilitarian perspective, it wouldn't be fun to wait in line to get a license or wait to have a kid. It takes all the fun and all the joy out of having a child, in the most perfect circumstance where it's people are married and they're ready to have an addition to their family. It takes all the fun out of that. Feminist care ethics, it inhibits the relationship you could build with the child if the child was taken away from you because you're not a licensed parent. And that means if it was an accident, perfect circumstance, you're married, you're ready to start a family, whatever, if you didn't have that parenting license beforehand, then, and if it was an accident, your child is going to get stripped away from you even though you know that you're going to be a loving parent. From virtue ethics, this is the only one that kind of agrees with having a parenting license, and it's because it could make parents better because they have to work for it. They have to go and they have to sign papers and get a license and take their picture and do all of the terrible things that are at the DMV. And so it makes you have to work for it. So it makes better parents. Kantianism is, the second rule of Kantianism states that if people are valuable, they're not tools. And cars are tools. You have to get licensed to drive a car, which is a tool. So if you have to get parents licensed to be able to be a parent, then it's relating the child to machinery, which means that they're a tool. And people are not tools, they're valuable. So all that being said, utilitarian feminist care ethics and Kantianism all agree with just leaving it how it is, and if you want to have a child, you have a child. Virtue ethics is the only one that's kind of hey, this could actually be beneficial. That one gives us a strong reason to support the argument. So intuitions. Forcing parents to be licensed doesn't mean they're going to get licensed. Unfortunately, there's a lot of drivers that don't have driver's license, which is terrifying. I don't want to drive anymore because of it. But if parents don't get licensed, their kid ends up in a government-run facility or system, and the government was never supposed to be a parent in the first place. That's why there's a lot of issues with foster care. It isn't doing what's best for the child. It could potentially cut down the amount of child abuse rates and save some babies, but there are still people who become parents and later abuse the child. For example, there's a high rate of postpartum depression and shaken baby syndrome. There's a high correlation there because a very stressed out parent who has a colic child who will not stop crying will take that baby and shake it to get it to stop crying, which severs the spinal cord and the brain, basically the brainstem. So there's still even if they are licensed, there's still that chance. And even foster care parents, there's so many foster care places and parents and facilities that abuse the children that are in their care, which they are licensed, they have training, they have all of it. They literally should be the perfect parents, but they still a lot of times abuse the children that are in their care, which is so, so sad. So the summary of this argument is, if all drivers have to take a driving test to get a driver's license, people who desire to be parents should have to take a parenting test to get a parenting license. And I don't agree with this argument, because getting a parenting license takes the fun out of it. It still has a risk of abuse and neglect for the children after they're born, and it would put too many kids into foster care, and there's no reason to add more kids to it when there's loving parents, even if they aren't licensed to be parents.